What's up, guys? Mason the Brock Henderson here, and it's returned! So many shows returning this week. Pretty much all of my CBS kind of guilty pleasure shows returning this week. First one to come back is NCIS. First episode of the 15th season, House Divided. Pretty good start to the season, enjoyable for the most part. There are a few problems I do have with it, and I am going to start off with that part of it just because it's pretty short to talk about. So first of all, the biggest problem I think I have with this overall is the fact that they left it on a cliffhanger like this. I don't have a problem with cliffhangers. I thoroughly enjoy most cliffhangers if they're done correctly. There are a few cliffhangers that are done very poorly, either to try to get people to come back and watch next season, or just done because they want to have an intense finale, not really done to further the story or anything. There's some cliffhangers that are truly done to build up the mystery and suspense, and that's when it's the most fun, because you're asking the entire time what's going to happen next season. And then there are cliffhangers like this one that's just, you pretty much did it just so people will return to watch what happened to McGee and Gibbs after the end of last season, what's going to happen to them next. That's the only reason you really did it. There's no other reason to do it other than that. So, yeah, the handling of it was not well done at all. I think it could have been salvaged if we just immediately come back and we're still, they're trying to survive, they're trying to get out of Paraguay, and maybe this episode ends with them getting captured, and so maybe that's the first few episodes of this season is them getting captured and then the team trying to find a way to get them back. But the way they handle it is they skip ahead 2 months and the team is still looking for them, and they've been captured by the guys that were smuggling uranium, I think. That's a problem for me, because the emotion at the end of this episode, whenever they come back, it feels like they're returning, they're trying to set it up, oh, it's the first time returning in 2 months. But for us, it was just, they disappeared at the end of last season. Honestly, they didn't even really disappear. We saw them going into the woods. And then we pick up this season, we find out that apparently they were gone for 2 months, and by the end of this episode, they're back. The emotion's not really there. I don't feel that emotion like I should. So that's the first problem I have. The other problem is more inside of the episode itself. It's actually, the other two problems I have are both with this one scene. It's whenever they find the dead body that's building up, that happens pretty much in the case of this episode. They find the dead body. First problem I have is he died in a payphone. He was trying to call from a payphone to NCIS to give them some information. Ultimately, he ends up being a part of the group that kidnapped Gibbs and McGee, because, of course he is, because they need some sort of lead. But he ends up getting shot in a payphone because he was trying to give the information to NCIS. And they get there, and both Bishop and Palmer, they're both just like, ooh, what's that? Like, I get you're trying to go for the whole, oh, haha, those kids these days, they just don't know about anything back in our day. Ooh, these kids, they don't know what it was like to have to call from payphones, to not have a phone on you at all times. Oh, they don't know what that's like at all. They have no idea what payphones are. We watched Superman as kids. We watched The Matrix. We know what freaking payphones are. This joke is just so pointless, and it doesn't make any sense at all. It would make more sense if the guy died while he was working on a telegraph, something like that, maybe a typewriter. Maybe he was working on that in his garage and he got shot there. That would make sense, because maybe some kids don't know what a typewriter is. Maybe they live under a rock and they haven't seen a movie that has a typewriter of some sort. Maybe that would make a bit more sense. But a payphone? It's a stupid joke that's trying to make fun of kids, saying they are so ignorant and stupid nowadays, and it just doesn't land. And I hate whenever jokes just don't land, because I'm just sitting there going, that was a stupid joke, and it just sticks with me throughout the entire episode. But immediately followed by another problem. We see Clayton Reeves talking to a guy, and just this random guy, and the guy seems way too interested in the guy that died. And he's asking these questions, and then Clayton says something that kind of like, wait, what? Like, he was trying to call NCIS with information? Like, what? What does that mean? And you could just tell from his reaction alone, he's going to be involved somehow. He is involved with the bad guys somehow. I knew it instantly. As soon as he did that reaction, I'm like, seriously? Like, you couldn't just have him be... You couldn't have him act like an innocent bystander. You had to have him overreact. Like, that's direction choice. That is director saying, all right, I want you to look very confused and concerned whenever he says he tried to call NCIS. You gave away the fact that he's a bad guy. Now the surprise whenever the woman's like, what are you talking about? Look in this picture. The boss is right there. You already talked to him. There's no surprise anymore. There's not, no, oh, what? That guy that they talked to? Like, that was the guy? That's the boss? Holy cow, I thought he was just an innocent bystander. No, I knew instantly. Because you made him act like a bad guy. You made him act like he was way too invested for just an innocent bystander. So, yeah, those are my main problems with this episode. The rest of it was fairly interesting. You know, it was very enjoyable to see Gibbs and McGee in such a dangerous and kind of survival what's the word I'm looking for? Survival circumstance. You know, just trying to get out of this situation. You know, these guys threatening them, torturing them for information. The guy that they, you know, were trying to go up against, pretty interesting, I guess. I don't know. I feel like I've seen this character way too many times where it's like a guy who is trying to come off as nice and calm and composed, but then can just shoot one of his guys randomly because he was torturing the, you know, our heroes or what. I don't know. I feel like I've seen this guy so many times. But ultimately, you know, he was interesting enough and he was threatening enough. The doctor that was with him, or the doctor-looking guy, I don't know, he had glasses and what looked like a lab coat. He was torturing Gibbs and then eventually, you know, kind of torturing McGee a little bit later on whenever he asked for a sandwich and the guy at the printer gives him the sandwich and the guy, like, pulls it out and he's just like, what's your birthday? And he's just like, what are you talking about? I just want to eat. He's like, what's your birthday? I don't know, it's just, he was very kooky whenever he was acting. It's just a little bit strange everything else felt very realistic, but then this doctor-looking guy, just a little bit too much like a Bond villain, I guess. I don't know. But I did enjoy the scenes with Gibbs and McGee. I mean, I really did enjoy seeing how they were going to get out of it. Seeing, you know, you could tell whenever McGee takes a bite of the sandwich and Gibbs walks by after they've got done torturing him. You could see the look on their face. You could see they're trying to build up, oh no, maybe Gibbs and McGee are going to start fighting because Gibbs sees McGee's giving them information, and then they get into the cell and they start arguing, and he throws the thing down and they start fighting. I think we all knew. I think we've been through this enough. We've been through enough NCIS episodes to know that there's a plan here. You know, this is not just them fighting. They wouldn't turn on each other like this. I think we all knew that there was a plan here, and so they didn't even have to show it. You know, I was worried after all this was said and done, after we see Gibbs pull out the knife, I was worried they were going to do like a whole flashback where Gibbs is explaining to McGee what they need to do. But no, he just pulls out the knife, says, good work, Tim. And that's all you need to know, because you already knew, if you've watched this show enough, you already know that they've come up with some sort of plan to get Gibbs the knife that he was talking about. So I love that scene. And then on top of that, there was another interesting scene with this guy on the boat. McGee came in to fix his printer. He did give McGee a sandwich after he was, you know, he kind of fed him a little bit of a sob story about being, you know, being a father or soon to be father. You know, he had a wife at home waiting for him. He kind of did all that, and then the guy, you could tell, was kind of a decent guy, and he's like, here you go, I want you to eat. And that's when the doctor steps in, he's like, what's your birthday? But we see this guy comes into the room, the new cell where McGee's being held, and he starts explaining that he doesn't really want to be a part of this. You know, he wanted to sort of help McGee out because he felt for him. And you can see this guy was a decent guy, and I like that. You know, it's not very often whenever we're in situations like this, because there have been a few situations where our heroes have been captured by some evil organization or something. This is not really something that typically happens. We don't normally see them go through this thing where, oh, you touch the heart of this one guy that's working for him and he's not actually a bad guy. He's being forced to work for them. And so he ends up, you know, just telling him the story of what happened to him, how the group that they are wasn't always a bad group. But then this guy comes in and they start smuggling stuff, and now all of a sudden they are kind of a bad group. And so he tried to leave, but the guy, El Jefe, I think was his name, he ends up killing two of his cousins, and so that's why he's being forced to stay. He's being threatened by him. And so ultimately, you wonder how much of this, are they going to use him to get out? Are they, what's this all leading to? Ultimately, they manage to get to the room where El Jefe is staying. They kill the doctor, and then after they manage to get the information out to the team of where they are, the GPS coordinates, they start taking him. Gibbs puts on his hat, pretends to be him, and they have a bag over his head, and so they're leading him down the hallway. Eventually, obviously, one of the guys sees, hey, wait a minute, that's not my boss. Takes the hat off of Gibbs, and all of a sudden, shots. And so they end up, in the middle of this sort of a showdown where all these guys have guns trained on them, and they're surrounded in a hallway. Gibbs is threatening the life of the boss, and he's like, shoot them! And right whenever that happens, of course, somehow perfectly timed, McGee set off the uranium alarm saying, oh no, uranium's loose on the ship. And so all the guys run away, leaving. And so now, nobody's left on the ship. It's just them getting up to the top. But one of the best scenes about this is that guy that was helping McGee earlier, they take El Jefe to a room where he's waiting, and then Gibbs just hands him a knife. And I'm just like, that's perfect. Because how many times do you see a show like this where they're trying to be they are the good guys. They are, we got to be justice. We got to make sure we stand up for justice and the right way. And, sometimes justice isn't served that way. Sometimes you have to go by the books. You have to do things by the books. In this case, they're just like, screw that. This he's very clearly an evil dude. He's very clearly probably going to get out because he has a lot of connections. And so they just give him to this guy who's been tortured by him forever. Gibbs hands him a knife, and it's just like, have your way. I'm just like, that's perfect. That's awesome. The guy gets what he deserves. This guy gets a little bit of retribution as well. I don't know. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Maybe it's the conservative side of me. Probably all the liberals that watch the show will be like, I can't believe you didn't make him stand trial, and everybody deserves the right way. Sorry. A little bit of a joke. But yeah, so they get up to the top of the ship. They do manage to get home. And then they have, like I said, they have that moment where they all get there and they're all back. And it's just like, oh, it's so good to be back. But like I said, I didn't really feel that, because they weren't gone for 2 months for me. They've been gone for just this episode. And that's where it could have been done better if we had them actually be taken at the end of last season. But they didn't. It was they were running into the woods and then stopped there. And then we pick up right where we left off, only for them to cut 2 months later in this episode. And so, I don't know, I feel like they could have done it a lot better. They could have made me feel the emotion a lot better. However, I will give props to the fact that I do feel for this team enough to really get the emotion at the end of this episode. Not the, oh, they're finally back, but to get the true nature of they're safe. It doesn't matter that I don't feel the fact that they've been gone for 2 months. I didn't get that feeling at all. But I did get the feeling of at least they're home safe. Whenever McGee walks into his apartment, Abby's there, they hug. Torres is there, they hug. And then he walks into the kitchen and you can see Delilah sitting there and she's like, Abby, who's that at the door? And then she turns around and just no words. Just complete silence. The music is building. McGee just gets down on his knees and then puts his head in her lap. And I'm just sitting there and my eyes are just tearing up even thinking about it and how I'm just like, man, that's a touching scene. And that's one of the great things about this show is that the characters are so well done. And you really do feel for them. This is something that I can really experience because I love McGee and Delilah. I think they're a great couple, and I think they've been handled so well throughout the past few seasons. That is emotion I can feel. That is emotion that I can experience. And that's why I wish they could have done they've been gone for 2 months experience a bit better. That's why I wish they would have handled that a lot better because I totally got the emotion of they're safe. I got all of that. But now I want to be able to have felt everything about it. I want to be able to have all of this come full circle and just experience it all at one time. but you ruined that for me because you didn't handle the end of last season well enough. You didn't handle the beginning of this season well enough. That's a problem for me. You know, I don't know, it's just frustrating. It's frustrating that they could have done so much better. They could have handled this episode so much better. And just this concept of them being gone for 2 months, it could have been a great way to start off this season. It could have been a great way to kick off the first few episodes, but instead, it's just everything's solved, everything's good in the first episode, and that's it. I guess I probably should touch on the other side of the episode a little bit more, since I only really talked about McGee and Gibbs. I don't know, the rest of it would just seem kind of pointless. You know, like I said, there's a dead body. Ultimately, it ties into the people that have McGee and Gibbs somehow, because of course it has to, or else there'd be no reason for it. We do see Bishop is in charge of the team whenever Gibbs is gone. Interesting, but it's only for this episode, so I didn't really get to experience it that much. I don't know. I could have done so much more with it. I'm upset that it's just sort of here and gone again. The whole trial just felt pointless, you know, and I guess that's another complaint that I do have. I don't know. It's such a non-factor in this episode. We see Torres seems like he's being reprimanded for what happened. You know, he held a gun up to the guy's neck, the pilot's neck in the chopper. I thought possibly he was going to get reprimanded and maybe even punished for that. Nothing happens. It seems like maybe Director Vance is coming under a lot of scrutiny. Maybe he's going to be punished or reprimanded. Nothing happens. Ultimately, all this leads to is just a joke where Vance gets information that McGee and Gibbs they found out where they are and that they need a helicopter to get there. And so he tells this to the DOD people who are sitting up on the jury, and they're just like, all right, well, we'll discuss the rest of this at a later time, but I think now, you know, we should move to try to get these men safe or something like that. And so he, you know, dismisses everybody, says, all right, no more audio, no more cameras. And Vance goes up to, I guess, the guy who's in charge of all of this. And the people next to him are just like, dude, this is all just for show. This is all just for the cameras and politics. You're good, man. We appreciate what you do. You go do you. We're just going to be here and, you know, kind of play it up for the cameras because we have to act like we're punishing you. You know how it is. And Vance is like, this is why I hate politics. I'm like, that's what this all is for? Really? Just so you can make a joke about how politics is crap? I mean, we all know that. You wasted a good 10, 15 minutes of this episode that could have been used elsewhere. And for that, I don't know. It's kind of frustrating. So this episode had its highs and lows, but that's typical NCIS. And ultimately, I still walked away with a lot of enjoyment and a very good, heartfelt ending to the episode. I mean, like I said, I was tearing up whenever McGee walked in and saw Delilah again. It's just, the emotion is there, and I think that's one thing that the show has that's kept it going for 15 seasons. You know, it's not necessarily the greatest show ever, but it has a lot of good heartfelt moments. It has a good cast of characters, and that's what the season started off with. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what the rest of the season has in store. Probably going to be a lot of the same, but I do want to see and hope that maybe they can take this somewhere that they've never taken NCIS before. I always have a hope that every season I come into, I'm always thinking, please let this season be the one that just stands out as like the best season so far and not just another NCIS season. Probably not going to happen, but always got a little bit of hope, and I always do enjoy pretty much every episode I watch. So that's it for me. Let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this episode? What do you think's coming up this season? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future NCIS reviews. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Peace out.